may I request you to please cut it short as fast as possible. 15 minutes, kindly back. Please, welcome, Mr. Richard. And his dedication to the game of golf runs deeper than his primary avocation for golf architecture. Mr. Vinod Goel would like to develop, please. His insight into the game from a design perspective has afforded Richard the opportunity to accomplish much more in the industry. His work has been nationally recognized for his Creekside Golf and Country Club in Atlanta, Georgia. And he was nominated for the best new course in both Golf Digest magazine and Georgia Golf News. A round of applause for Mr. Richard Mandell. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Can everybody hear me without this? Huh? This will be better.
No.
Me talking?
Without this.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, sir. My name is Richard Mandell. I'm a golf course architect from Pinehurst, North Carolina. I've been in the business since the 1990, and the majority of my work is renovation work. And so where I mentioned an award from a long, long time ago, but recently we've continued to win awards for renovation work in the United States. And this topic is very applicable in the United States, returning the game to affordability. I can't say in India that you are returning the game to affordability necessarily, but I'm here to warn you not to make the same mistakes that we in America have made in the last 30 or 40 years. You look to America for leadership in golf course design and development. I'm not sure that's a smart thing to do. I'm going to take you to a different place than where you usually will be with golf course design. And I gave this talk a few years ago at the Mandell Center to a similar group, and I know I see some faces here that were there before, and I didn't realize that. But Mohan, who asked me to come speak, said, don't worry about it. They probably forgot everything you said. He said, actually, that's not true. He said, don't worry about it. They probably weren't listening the first time. So, here we are again. If you did listen the first time, it's just a refresher course, and it's not a point that needs to be made about golf course design. Golf course design in the whole world is much more complicated than it needs to be. And the more complicated you make golf course design, the more expensive the game becomes, the more expensive the game takes to maintain, and your jobs as superintendents become more and more difficult. And that's not what the game of golf or golf course design was ever intended to be. So, 2 years ago I popped this slide up and said it's an eternal question. Thank God it's an eternal question because I'm asking it again 2 years later. Why is a greens complex with no sand bunkers considered plain? Can anybody answer that question? Have you ever thought about that? How many greens do you see that don't have any sand bunkers around them? Very few probably, because designers feel that you need sand in order to make a great golf hole. Not necessarily, okay? Not necessarily at all. What is the fascination with mounds? Now this is a project of mine in China where I spent about 40 days on site in 7 or 8 different trips. And I had my own shaper working on the greens complexes and the sand bunkers, but I had local shapers shaping the fairways. And every time I'd come back, there was a new mound. And they just, I don't know if there's some sort of fertilizer that they use that helps the ground come up into a mound or not. I don't think it's good fertilizer if it is. So I'm constantly take it out, take it out, take it out. The utilization of mounds generally, the only advantages are that maybe they keep balls from rolling somewhere worse, but it's a crutch that designers use all the time. Something as simple as just designing your playing surfaces and just blending it into the natural lay of the land is perfectly sufficient enough. When was the last time you played a golf course and said, how about those mounds to the left of the 7th fairway? Were they fantastic or not? You've never said it, I'm sure. Okay. And here's a golf course here. Why does doing more always seem to be favored over doing less? You can see the mounds here in this drawing on a golf course in South Carolina, in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Does that look natural to you? I shudder to see the real hole, but it doesn't look natural to you. People are afraid of doing nothing, and sometimes in golf course design, leaving well enough alone is more appropriate. So, design, to build, to maintain, to operate. Because of things like that, because of the need to do something that might not necessarily need to be done. So, how did golf become too expensive? The Augusta syndrome. The Masters was just a few weeks ago. I hope that maybe you got to see some of it here in India. That is not the prototypical golf course. It should not be the prototypical golf course. Because few golf courses have the resources to maintain their golf courses like Augusta. But in America, we all try. And in India, I've been to courses where they try that as well. And it's not Augusta that is the problem. It's everybody else. Everybody who wants to be like Augusta. Augusta can do that. The rest of us really probably can't. And when we strive to do that, we're going to become an unsustainable operation. Construction and maintenance technology continues to raise the bar instead of making golf more affordable. Think about it. Every time we have an advance in America with equipment, it's sold as we can minimize our work, we can do the job easier. But what happens? We continue to decide, well, we didn't know we could do that, now we can do this with this machine. And we constantly try to do more and more and more. So always chasing our tail, is what we call that. Course setup for the professional cannot be the same for the average golfer. Go back to Augusta, right? The average golfer cannot handle very tight lies. The fact of the matter is, we're just not that good. We're not as good as professionals, but everyone wants to play a golf course that a professional plays. What is seen on television cannot be achieved at most facilities. I'll tell you a story about a project of mine called Raleigh Country Club in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hosted what was then called the Ben Hogan Tour. And they had cameras there, and the superintendent of the golf course was in the TV production trailer, looking at the 18th fairway on the screen, and he could look out the window and see the 18th fairway. And on the screen, it was emerald green. Now, he's a superintendent, so he knows darn well if it's really emerald green or not. But he looks on the TV and sees it emerald green. He looks out the window, it's not emerald green. What they've done is they put filters on their cameras to make those golf courses look better than they actually are. Yet all of us suckers, and I hope I don't insult you guys by lumping you in with me, all of us suckers think, well, we got to have what's on TV. Well, we need to sell sunglasses with filters on them, and then our problems are solved. So, golf course rankings are a better marketing tool than the golf experience itself. Everybody wants to win awards. I already mentioned a few awards of mine, and I'm in the position, in order to survive in my business, I have to try to win awards. But I've decided in my life that I'm going to win awards on my terms, and win awards with doing less, which is what I'm talking to you here about. And I've won awards for projects that have half the budget than my competition. And it's because I'm doing less, because less is more. And a continued focus on aesthetics over strategy and playability. So the golf experience isn't the most important thing. It's what does the golf course look like? And that's what's selling. That's why the golf industry is in terrible shape. It doesn't make sense. When I first started in the early 90s, there were so many things that I saw and I thought, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. None of this adds up. But I was young, I thought, okay, let me learn, let me see what happens. Those same things I questioned back in 1992, I questioned in 2008, 2010, 2016, today I question. So my advice in general is, as you continue to grow the golf market in India, if there's something that is brought from elsewhere, advice, ideas, and it doesn't make sense to you, question it, because it probably isn't making sense at all. So, my platform, if I was running for election, and against Donald Trump even, in America, and he's running for president, I'd spank him really when it comes to affordable golf. You know, he's the savior of golf, he's going to be the savior of America. He'll probably do a better job saving America than saving golf in America. Because his golf courses are way up high, very high end. Few people can play them. Affordability is a relative term, right? What's affordable to me is very unlikely affordable to a college student in America or here or wherever. But what's affordable to Donald Trump is nowhere near affordable to me. So it's a relative thing and should never be confused with cheap, okay? Something that's affordable. So, how do we return to affordability. Golf is too expensive. And so the question is, how do we return to affordability? So the first part of this discussion, I'm going to show you a bunch of slides of things that I call bells and whistles. We minimize the bells and whistles and maximize those attributes of the game that made golf such a fascination in the first place. When golf started in Scotland, years and years ago, it was Dutch traders docking their boats, crossing what we know as the first and 18th holes at the old course at St. Andrews, finding rocks, finding sticks, and hitting the rock with the stick from point A to point B. There were no waterfalls to look at, okay? And no one was interested in waterfalls, or retaining walls, or GPS, or any of these other things that we call bells and whistles in the game of golf. Golf grew then. That is the essence of golf, and that's what I'm afraid we're missing. All of us in the golf industry and in the world, the essence of hitting a flush 5-iron and the reward that we get for playing well, not necessarily what we see and how pretty the bunkers are or how many bunkers there are. A sign that a golf course that's too difficult should never be confused with a golf course that is great. Difficult and great do not belong in the same sentence. So, literally bells and whistles is what we need to eliminate. So what are those bells and whistles? Do you have that term? Do you use that term in India? You have bells and whistles, things that we don't really need. So here are things that I see: excessive shaping of features. Okay. One reason golf is so expensive on a renovation standpoint is that golf course architects come in and they decide from property line to property line to rebuild the whole golf course. And there are many times when you might rebuild tees and you might rebuild a green, but the fairway is perfectly fine. But there's the need to put your bulldozer blade on every square meter of a piece of property. And we've been very successful in limiting that and seeing what works. There's no reason to reinventing the wheel in certain spots. So, excessive shaping of features, all those mounts that I don't like, and then just leaving areas that are perfectly good alone. Again, nobody came to a golf course because they loved the mounts to the right of the 7th fairway. Okay? And nobody went away from a golf course because the fairway was very receptive to your golf ball and it just bled into the tree line. Okay? But if you do that, superintendents don't have extra work there. So, excessive shaping of features and of acreage. Flawless turf grass from green to tee. We talk about golf from tee to green. That's where we play. But what we see a lot of times after that is from green to tee. Does it really matter if the turf grass between the green you just played and the tee you're going to has to be perfect emerald green? No one's playing on that. What we want to do in golf course management, in America we maintain, we don't manage golf courses. In the UK we manage golf courses, right? We manage what we have and try to give the best turf, not me, but they manage what they have and try to provide the best playing conditions within what they have to work for. Whereas we in America maintain everything. We're going to grow grass and we're going to create our own standard of perfection that is not sustainable. And I can understand that on putting surfaces and in landing areas to a certain extent, but not everywhere from tee to green, but certainly not from green to tee. So focus down the middle of your fairway where you're going to put your maintenance. And do not worry about what is from green to tee. Now, it's easier for me to say this and easy for a lot of you as superintendents to agree, but we know that it's the higher-ups that want that perfection from green to tee. So it's a challenge that we have. You know, the guys next door need to be in here with us to hear this so that they can see how golf can be sustainable and they might not spend so much money. Irrigation systems in America have just gotten completely out of control. There's a point in America where we have made irrigation systems too efficient and too micromanaged that if we sort of eliminated 15% of our efficiency, we may not change how much water we actually use. And there have been studies done in America, not by Toro or Rainbird or John Deere, and not by irrigation consultants, but by superintendents just like you guys, that have shown that you don't need to have the greatest and most efficient irrigation system, because at the end of the day, it doesn't change your job. But what will they do in America? They will scare tactics. Scare tactics is to say, you have to have the best irrigation system or you will lose your job. And And it just takes a few brave superintendents to break that mold. And we're doing that in America with our projects. We're making sure that we're, if you compare an irrigation system, we're showing people irrigation systems that are $900,000, $1.1 million, $1.3 million, and showing them what truly is the difference between the three. And I don't think it's $200,000, $400,000 worth. That money needs to go into drainage or needs to stay in someone's pocket. So, and going on with irrigation, triple row irrigation, landing areas where it's water from tree line to tree line. It was never like that originally, and it does not need to be for golfers to enjoy the game. The more water we put on a golf course, the thicker the grass becomes, and the higher your rough becomes, and that's why we've expanded irrigation systems in the last 30 years, so that we can grow rough. Why do we want to grow rough? Because we see everybody on TV playing these golf tournaments, and we want to be like the professionals. But what I say earlier, I know I'm not as good as the professionals, and most of us aren't either. So we're creating a difficulty there for golf, as opposed to enjoyment. I have even seen people irrigate sand in their bunkers for consistency's sakes. What's a bunker? What is a bunker supposed to be? What is it called? In my business, it's called a hazard, right?
Yes.
It's something that's supposed to, if you hit into it, you have to have a challenge to get out of it. Yet in America, we're making it easier for people to hit out of sand bunkers than off the fairway sometimes. And we're irrigating sand bunkers so that balls don't get into precarious situations. It's crazy. Daily raking sand bunkers. You know what? If we did it falls on the same lines. We don't have to rake our sand bunkers every single day. They are hazards, absolute hazards. There's a lot of money and time to be saved that could be used elsewhere if we didn't rake our sand bunkers every day. Are there any golf pros in